Hi everyone, it's Lisa Mears here. Thank you for joining me. I received the Stamps of Life May 2023 Fold It Club product, and today I'm going to share this with you as well as make a card. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Stamps of Life clubs, they have several different monthly clubs to include a stamp club, stamp and die club, card kit club, and a fold it club. And the Fold It Club is their newest club in which each month you will receive a die set to make a Fold It. Fold Its are so much fun because they allow you to make a shaped card. And this month's set is a camper, so you can make a card shaped like a camper. However, you can also add it to the front of a card base or a scrapbook page. It doesn't necessarily have to be used for just a shaped card. So if you're a member of the Fold It Club, you will receive an inspiration card which has some pictures of cards that you can make, and it also includes some stencils, so it shows you all of the products you'll receive in this club shipment. So you will get the die set to make the camper. You will also get a pack of stencils that coordinate beautifully with the Fold It for the month. So this is the May 2023 Fold It Club contents. So let's take a look at the die set that you get. So this die set will make an A2 size card shaped like a camper. I think this is so cute. There are two dies in this set. So you have the die that makes the shadow, and then you have the die for the layering pieces. So the middle piece here you can die cut from different color cardstock or pattern paper and piece together to get a colorful camper, just like you see here on the front of the packaging. You will also get two stencils that coordinate with the camper. So I'll go ahead and pull these out of the package. You will get the cactus stencil, just as you see there on the front. And with the cactus stencil, it is a large cactus that you can ink up using an ink of your choosing. And then you'll see that to the right of the large cactus is a stencil for the little prickly things or the spines that go on top of the cactus. There's also a stencil there for some rocks. And then at the very edge of the stencil, you can use this edge to make dirt or grass, whichever you choose. There's also some at the top, so you can have different layers of the dirt or grass for your card background. So let's take a look here at the front of the packaging, and you can see these put to work. So you can see the layers on the cactus, and you can see the different layers of the dirt here and the rocks. So that will give you a good idea of how that stencil is used. The second stencil that's included will allow you to put patterns on your camper. So first of all, you can see at the very top of that stencil, there are some banners. So if you wanted to put some banners, stencil some onto your camper, you can do that. The second section there is a border, just a scalloped border, and that is for the border line that you see there on the camper, so you can add some scallops above and below that border line. This particular stencil is a stencil for the curtains, so if you wanted to add polka dots to your curtains, you can do that. So here's a closer look. You can see the polka dots there that are colored in white on top of the red curtains. In addition, there is the wheel, so you can do some dashed lines or some polka dots there. There's also some diagonal stripes for the bottom of the camper, and there are some polka dots for the door of the camper. So if you wanted to have any patterns on your camper, you can use that stencil to do that. And here are some examples on the inspiration card using that stencil. If you like this camper die set, the last day to join the Fold It Club to receive this die set is May 23rd, because on May 24th, a new Fold It Club set will be revealed. So real quick, here's a look at the 4 main clubs that the Stamps of Life offers. I also have videos on my channel for the other clubs, and I'll link to my latest video at the top right corner of this video and in the description box below in case you're interested in checking it out. If you're interested in joining a club, I will have links to the Stamps of Life clubs in the description box of this video and on my blog in case you're interested in joining. Remember that using my link just tells the Stamps of Life that I referred you. I will get a small commission at no extra cost to you, and you will get 500 bonus club points to spend in the Stamps of Life store. You can also use my promo code, which is Lisa Mears. So let's go ahead and make a card with this month's club set. I'm going to start out with my card background, and I have a piece of Bristol smooth cardstock that I cut to 6 3/4 by 4 3/4, and I'm going to use some of my Distress Oxide inks to make a background for my card. So I'm going to start out with the dirt stencil, and I'm going to use the stencil at the bottom. Remember, there's two stencils there for the dirt. There's one at the top and bottom. I'm using the bottom one. And because this stencil is not the same width as my card layer, it's a little bit shorter, I am putting a piece of the Scrapbookcom mint tape on the right because I don't want to accidentally use my ink and go over the straight edge of the stencil, because then I'll just end up with a straight edge of ink and it's not going to look right on my card. So I was just masking off the edge. So the ink that I'm using my Distress Oxide inks because I love how these blend together, and I'm using the Vintage Photo Distress Oxide ink. So here I have one pile of dirt, and now I'm just adding the stencil to the right of that cardstock, and I'm going to put some masking tape over the very left edge of the stencil so that I don't go beyond the left edge onto my card layer. And now I'm just inking up that stencil there on the right. And then once I finish with that, I will go ahead and remove the stencil and the masking tape. And you can see that I have my pile of dirt. It actually now looks like two piles of dirt the way that I've done it. Now I'm ready to do the sky. So I have 3 color inks that I'm going to use for the sky, and I'm going to start out with the pink color. This is the Distress Oxide Kitsch Flamingo ink, and I'm just going to ink up the top portion of that cardstock. Next, I'm going to come in with an orange color, and the orange ink that I'm using is the Spiced Marmalade. So I'm just fixing my magnets there to hold it down and get them out of the way, and then I'll ink up right below that Kitsch Flamingo color and add the orange. And I'm going to also blend that orange in with the pink. Those colors will blend very nicely. So after I add my orange, I am going to come back in with the Kitsch Flamingo, and I'm just going to put some more ink there on my ink blending tool and then go over where the pink and the orange color meet and just blend those a little bit better so that it has a more seamless blend. Okay, I'm going to come in with my next color, which is the Squeezed Lemonade, and I will ink up everything in the white area that's below the orange color ink. Now, because some of that yellow ink ended up on top of the brown ink, I'm just going to come back in with the stencil for the dirt and just position it over my cardstock and just come back in and add some more of that Vintage Photo ink to make that dirt pile a little bit darker. I'm going to add some texture to this background by just spritzing it with water and then putting a paper towel over that cardstock, pressing it down and lifting up, and you can see that the water actually will then pull that ink from the cardstock. So you have little splotches of white, but I'm going to add some more white texture to this background by just putting some white acrylic paint on my mat, spraying it with water to make it a little bit thinner, and mixing it with a paintbrush and then just flicking that paint on to the background. And so here's a closer look at the background. And I'm going to set that aside to dry, and in the meantime I'm going to start working on my cactus. I'm going to take some Pixie Spray and I'm going to put it on the back of the cactus stencil, just because these parts of the stencil here, I want to make sure that they stick to the cardstock. so that when I'm inking the cactus, those pieces of the stencil don't accidentally come up. So I put some Pixie Spray on the back of that stencil off camera, and I'm just adding it to my cardstock. And the ink that I'm using is the Distress Oxide Rustic Wilderness ink. So once I finish inking the green cactus, I'm going to remove the stencil and then reposition the layering piece over the cactus, which is the spines from the cactus. And I'm going to use the Brutus Monroe Glitter Glaze in gold. And I'm just using a palette knife to get that glitter glaze into those areas of the stencil. I chose to use the glitter glaze because the cactus spines, they do differ in color and texture, and I wanted to have a little bit of a raised look while also letting these spines stand out a little bit on the cactus. So I thought bringing in the gold glitter would really do the job. So I'm going to create a second cactus off camera and then let these sit to dry, and once they are dry, I'm going to come back with my scissors and I'm going to cut them out of the cardstock. So for your camper, you can die cut this in solid cardstock or pattern paper. I chose to use solid cardstock because I knew I wanted to show you how to use the stencils, and the stencils obviously would work best on solid color cardstock. So I die cut the layering piece that you can do the paper piecing with out of 3 different colors. I have the ocean, the cherry, and the vanilla cardstock from the Stamps of Life, and then the shadow piece is out of the cloud cardstock. So when you die cut the camper die cut piece is going to have some pieces of the cardstock that already are cut for you. And then all you have to do is take your scissors to finish the cut in the cardstock so that you can cut these pieces away so that you can have different color cardstock for different parts of the camper. So I am just snipping off the bottom part of the camper in the cherry cardstock and in the vanilla cardstock. So you can see now I can switch up and add the cherry color at the bottom of the vanilla cardstock and do the same thing with the other one. Here I'm going to take the ocean cardstock and just snip away the top lines, and I'm going to do the same thing with the pink cardstock. So you can actually now piece in all of these different colors to make the lines any color you want. So if you wanted to do like a teal pink design, or if you wanted to have all of those lines at the top to be teal or all of them to be pink, it's up to you, because you can just use your scissors and snip these away because they're only connected on the ends, and that's really the only piece that you have to snip is just those ends, because the whole entire line is actually cut for you. So I'm just doing that on these teal pieces and the pink pieces. So now I have individual lines, and then I can go in with my glue and just make the pattern that I want by adding them to the top of this cream color cardstock. So I'm going to go with a pink teal pattern. And the pieces that you don't use for this particular camper, you can save and you can use them for another camper card. But I'm just going to work and create one camper with you today, and I'll just save those pieces for the next time I want to create a camper card. So you can see it's pretty easy. I'm just lining them up on the cream colored cardstock where they go. It's kind of like putting pieces to a puzzle together. Okay, so next I'm going to cut off this little piece in the middle. So I have this border strip in the middle of the camper, and I'm going to cut it off of the ocean colored cardstock. So that border strip will go right where you see me put it there, in the middle of the camper. And now if you want to add some extra depth and dimension to the camper, you can always take out your inks and you can ink up the edges of the cardstock. So just by inking up the edges, it will give you some more depth and dimension for your card. So I'm just adding the same color ink that I have for the cardstock, and I'm going to add it to the colored cardstock here. And I'm doing the same thing here with the border strip, just adding some of the ocean ink to this cardstock. And then I'll go ahead and glue it down. So I'm just going to put glue on the back, and you can see very well where it goes. So I'll just press that down onto the cream colored camper. So for the bottom part of the camper, I want to show you how to use the stencil. I'm just taking the stencil and lining it up with that piece of cardstock that I die cut. I'm going to use the same color ink as the cardstock and just add these diagonal lines onto the cardstock. So if you want to add a pattern, that's where you can use the stencil. And then after I've added the ink, you can see what that looks like. You can do the same thing with the door. So here I'm just going to put the polka dots for the door over top of the door cardstock piece. And notice I'm taking some of my mint tape, my masking tape, and just masking off the parts of the stencil that are right next to the door because I don't want to accidentally ink over those open parts of the stencil and get that on my camper. So I just added some pink ink to the door. And then next I'm going to cut out the window, so the drapes, out of the ocean cardstock. I'm also going to cut it out of the vanilla cardstock because I am going to have some teal drapes instead of the vanilla color. I'm also cutting out the tire because I don't want a pink tire. I'm going to end up die cutting some black cardstock for the tire. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start gluing this to the shadow layer just so that I start having everything in place. So I'll go ahead and put glue on the back of the top part of the camper and add it to the gray shadow layer. And I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom portion of the camper. So we'll just glue that down as well. I also die cut the window portion out of some of the sunshine cardstock, and I'm just going to cut the drapes out. I don't want the drapes to be yellow. I just want the window portion to be yellow. And I chose yellow just because if there's a light on inside of the camper, it kind of looks like maybe that would be a yellow color. So I thought that would be practical to use yellow there. And then for the ocean piece that I die cut, I want to go ahead and add a pattern to the drapes. So I just use some of my tape to hold the cardstock to my mat, and then I'll line the stencil up with the drapes and then add the same color ink over the cardstock so that it's tone on tone. Okay, so there are my drapes, but I don't need the middle part, so I'm going to cut that middle part out and only use the drapes. So I'll go ahead and snip that away, and then I will add the drapes as well as the yellow part for the window, and then I'll just glue them all down. I'm also going to add the little cardstock dot to the center of the drapes that's holding the drapes back. If you wanted to put like an enamel dot there for decoration, you can do that as well. Okay, so for the door, I am going to add the yellow cardstock for the window here too. And I also was looking at this and thought maybe a teal colored door would look better. So I decided to go ahead and use the teal door and stencil on some of the ink onto this door and then just change the door and to add the teal color door on top of the cream colored one. I just think that looks so much better and it brings out more of that teal color in the camper. And there's also a little knob for the door, and I die cut that out of some of the pink cardstock, and I'm just going to add the knob right in there. If you wanted to use an enamel dot for more decoration, you could also do that for the door. I'm going to add the tire in black cardstock. And the piece that goes above the tire, I am going to add some ink to the edges, but I'm also going to stencil the polka dots on top of this as well. So I'm just going to tape it down to my mat to hold it in place, put the stencil over it, and ink up some of the same color ink. And then I'll go ahead and add that onto the camper, and then I'll also glue the tire on. And I'll add that little piece that goes inside the tire in the pink cardstock. So I have one last piece here to put into the camper, and now the camper is complete. So you can actually take this camper and put it on a card, make it a shaped card, or put it on a scrapbook page. So I'm going to actually put mine on a card, but before I do that, I want to show you how you would make it a shaped card if that's what you wanted to do with your camper. So I'm taking a piece of 8.5 by 11 white cardstock, and I'm just folding it in half. And then I'm going to take the large shadow die and place the top of the die so that it's slightly above the fold in the cardstock. Now that is if you want to make a top folding card, but if you want to make a side folding card, just take the left edge of the die and place it so that it is slightly to the left of the fold in the cardstock. But I'm going to go ahead and die cut this as it's a top folding camper card. So I'll go ahead and use my mint tape to tape it down to the cardstock, run it through my die cut machine, and then you can see that you have the card base. And then all you would do is glue the camper right on top of the card base. But I'm not making a shaped card today. Instead, I'm just going to use the camper die and I'm going to put it on my card. My card is actually going to be a 5 by 7 card. And I chose to make a larger card because I needed to have room for the cacti and to be able to see the sunset. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the cactus onto the card. I'm going to extend it a little bit off to the left edge. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the cactus that's on the right side. So I'll glue that down, extending it a little bit beyond the right edge of the card layer. And then what I'll do is I'll just trim off the excess cardstock that's extending beyond that card layer. Next, I'll glue the camper onto the card. And then I need to add a sentiment. So I looked through my stash to see if I had any camper stamps, and I did find a stamp set from Sunny Studio Stamps. This is the Critter Campout set, and it has all of these sentiments like "You make me a happy camper," "Life is better around a campfire," "Life with you is an adventure," "Happy trails." So I go ahead and stamp out the "You make me a happy camper," and I just trimmed it down with my scissors, and then I'll just add it to the camper. Next, I found some of these flower stickers in my stash. These must have come from a previous Stamps of Life card kit, and I'm going to go ahead and add a couple to the camper. Next, I'm just going to add this to a 5 by 7 white card base, and then my card will be complete. I just love how this card turned out. I think the colors are so pretty, and this camper is so cute. So if you're interested in finding out more about the Stamps of Life clubs, check out the link in the description box below. I'll also have links down there for all additional supplies that I've used to make my card. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like videos like these, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on your bell notifications so that you don't miss any videos. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.